put Richard Nixon's visit in the broader international context. At that time, the United States was mired down in the Vietnam War. And so when Richard Nixon was running for the president in 1968, he was actually sending out the message that if he were elected, he would change U.S. strategy. He would try to exclude the United States from Vietnam. And then at that time, you look west in Europe, you have the former Soviet Union at that time in 1968 invaded Prague. And so the United States was perceived as more on the defense vis-a-vis the former Soviet Union, whereas the United States perceived itself as more on the defense. Like the former Soviet Union was very offensive, whereas the United States was kind of a defensive. And so you look at this triangular relationship between China, Russia, the former Soviet Union, and the United States at that time. So Nixon, as a master of strategic planning or geopolitics, he realized that the United States needed to reach out to China to counterbalance what he believed was the bigger threat at that time. And so given that background, you have this historical visit by Nixon to China.
Yeah, that was one of those seismic geopolitical events that shifted the course of history, right?
Right.
And talk to us more about this visit. They toured 3 cities, right? Beijing, Shanghai, Hangzhou. It had all the fanfare of a friendly state visit. They toured the Great Wall, the Ming Tomb. There were a lot of banquets as well. There were tours to the schools as well. Why the 3 cities were chosen?
Well, you know what? I did some research yesterday, and I found like there's no real government information on how the 3 cities were chosen for the itinerary. But I presume that because at that time there was no non-stop flight between Beijing and the United States or Shanghai, and so you have to have a stopover in Hawaii, and that's what's widely reported. He had a stopover in Hawaii, presumably for refueling, and then he landed in Shanghai, and then took the train, and then he flew over to Beijing. And so Shanghai and Beijing, and then on his way back to Shanghai, where he would fly back to the United States, and then he had stopped over in Hangzhou. And so, Hangzhou is, we call this heaven on earth. This, the West Lake, the cuisines, the teas, etc. So I think when we look at this trip, many Chinese government officials who were involved in planning the trip, and you look at their memoirs and others, it shows that how much care and attention that China's top leaders paid into planning this visit. Like the kind of food, chopsticks, Great Wall, Forbidden City. It's not just a way of Chinese hospitality, but it's also a way to show that Chairman Mao and China's top leadership was sincere in welcoming somebody who had been China's avowed enemy for more than 2 decades. And so this groundbreaking, you use the word seismic change, trip. I think that's absolutely why we paid so much attention to make sure that this is a great, successful visit.